Yesterday, Conor McGregor put out a tweet basically saying that he is going to make the announcement of who his comeback fight will be against January 1st of 2024, the beginning of the new year. I personally think that there are 3 likely candidates for this comeback fight, and I'm going to tell you all about them, and I'm going to go through who I think they are and why they make sense. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Ultimate Punching channel. Thank you guys for stopping by. I appreciate each and every one of you. Before I get into the video, if you wouldn't mind smashing that like button and hitting that subscribe button, it helps with the YouTube algorithm, and it helps me grow the channel. I appreciate each and every one of you. This is the tweet from Conor McGregor. I will announce who my comeback fight will be against in 2024. Now, in my opinion, the likely fight for Conor McGregor to come back seems to be UFC 300. Him being the main event on UFC 300 seems like it's the most likely scenario for his comeback fight. And the reason I say that is because, and I've mentioned this in previous videos, the other sort of high-level options in terms of who might be the main event on that card seem somewhat risky, right? Israel Adesanya has been talked about as a potential candidate, but who does he fight? I've mentioned this in another video, right? People have talked about Islam Makhachev being on that card, but it's Ramadan, right? So I think the most likely, the biggest star, you know, Sean O'Malley, these other guys, they're on other cards, right? So I think Conor McGregor is the UFC's first choice for the UFC 300 card. Now, obviously, the most obvious choice for him to fight is Michael Chandler, right? Now, there have been whispers about the fact that he's never going to make that fight. Michael Chandler has said he's moving on. Conor says he doesn't want that match. But historically speaking, we have seen situations where Conor McGregor has said, I'm not fighting that guy. I don't want to fight that guy. This, that, and the other. I'm not going to come back for another 6 months. And then we get a fight announcement, you know, a couple days later that it's the exact person that it was supposed to be, right? So as much as I think like the UFC wants to go in a different direction and Conor wants to go in a different direction, probably the absolute path of least resistance is, of course, Conor fighting Chandler. And this could be great in the sense that if he beats Chandler, which like I don't think that's likely, to be honest with you, because Chandler's been busy, he's been in the gym, he's been training, he hasn't been coked out of his mind. So I think that's going to be a tough night out for Conor. But if Conor can KO him, right, that puts him right in their title shot with Islam Makhachev, and then they kind of do the Conor Khabib 2 scenario, right? So in that scenario, I think that's the easiest fight. The easiest fight for Conor McGregor to go in and get a title shot against Islam Makhachev. But does Conor even want to come back and compete for a title? That's the real question. And does that even make sense for the UFC? Because I don't think, like I said, I don't think he's beating Michael Chandler because he just hasn't been active. He hasn't been training. So who would be another potential option? Now, Dustin Porier, there's still a little bit of a history there. Conor, Dustin 4. Dustin's technically won 2. Conor's won 1. The last one was on a doctor stoppage. So a lot of people look at that and say, well, you know, we didn't really see a conclusion. Conor broke his leg. Conor made the sort of excuse that his leg was broken prior to going in there or something like that. And then Dustin said, no, he broke his leg when I checked one of his kicks, right? Either way, them going back and forth and kind of wrapping up that series, that would be a benefit for the fans. But of course, if he beats Dustin Porier, again, that puts him in title contention. But if Chandler's a tough night out, Dustin Poirier is an even tougher night out. So if Conor can get the job done, again, immediate title shot. So if there's title implications, if the UFC is thinking to try to pit him against Islam Makhachev, if he wins, then those two are the only 2 scenarios that make sense, right? But in my mind, this is probably one of the last time we're going to see Conor in the octagon. Maybe one more time after that. But really and truly, he doesn't seem to want to fight too badly. He doesn't want to train too badly. And there's one fight that fans have been deprived of, that fans loved when Conor was kind of in his prime before he went boxing. And the stars seem to be aligning to make this fight happen. And that's Conor versus Nate Diaz 3, right? This will probably not have any title implications no matter who comes out on top in this match. But the build-up, the hype, everything that went into Conor versus Diaz 1, Conor versus Diaz 2, the fans really want to see a conclusion to that fight. So I think if the UFC is looking at this and being like, this is probably Conor's last night out, this is probably Conor's last fight, what fight can we give the fans to make it memorable, to make it, a sort of sayonara to both of them, right? Because Nate Diaz is 37, Conor's 35. Conor's worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Nate is probably nearing the end of his career too. Neither of them seem super interested in a title. They're just, they're fan favorites, right? So, it would be criminal for those two to retire and not have their trilogy bout. So, in my mind, if what we hear from Conor tomorrow, Monday, January 1st, 2024, is that him and Nate Diaz are going to be headlining UFC 300 for their trilogy fight. That would be my favorite scenario. I think that is the most likely scenario because there have been talks by Nate Diaz that he wants to be on the UFC 300 card. There have been talks that they want Conor on the UFC 300 card. I think he's the least risky person to put on the UFC 300 card. Other stars, there's too much risk to have them, their ideal scenario kind of fall through, right? So that's what I think. I think we're going to hear an announcement that Conor versus Nate Diaz 3 is going to be the headline event for UFC 300. Am I wrong? What do you guys think? Who do you think is going to be the headlining event? Who do you think Conor is going to come back and fight against? Is he coming back even? And do you think this is his final fight? Let me know in the comments. Thank you guys so much for watching, and thanks for stopping by.